Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Listen, we are in dire need of donations to keep these shows running and available for you 24/7. So that means when you're in the car, it's available for you to listen to. Whether you're at work, streaming, playing a game, it's available for you to listen to. Rowing your deen and learning about the beautiful, beautiful, beautiful different topics of Islam. Listen, one of the heaviest deeds that could be placed on your scale on the day of judgment is Sadaqah Jariyah. Yes, I know I'm trying to build deeds daily. So you can too. So listen, feel free and please, from the bottom of your heart, donate to this wonderful cause, wonderful website and platform to continually push out shows that will benefit you and the Muslim Ummah. Yes, you can donate by going to the SunnahFollowers.net website, pressing the donate tab. You can also scan the QR code in YouTube on the far left top of our videos that are streaming. Listen, guys, this is very important, and take this as important. We want to keep this programming available for you 24/7 so that you have access in your car, anywhere you choose to tune in to this wonderful programming. Yes, guys, it's all at your disposal. So listen, feel free to donate. Once again, remember, Sadaqah Jariyah, one of the heaviest deeds on your scale on the day of judgment.
Okay, please. Yes. Yeah, let's be real consistent.
Yeah, I got to get back in here. And this is the goal setting, right?
Yes, please. Yeah, let's be Quran, neuroscience, and achieving your goal.
That's what I put on the flyer too. Okay, let me try it. Okay, and everybody else is ready. Rumble. Oh, Rumble. There they are. Okay, guys, can you guys hear me? Inna alhamdulillah, wa salam ala wa rasulullah. Welcome to another session with Dr. Daniel Abdul Rahman McBride. Yes, brother Sister Atika, you can hear, yes. And alhamdulillah, a lot of you were looking forward to tonight's program because he's going to be speaking about goal setting. And with Ramadan being around the corner, remember, we don't prepare for Ramadan by fasting, because if you're fasting, you're going to be burnt out, and you're going to be one of those Muslims coming here asking for a fatwa to get out of fasting, which we don't give. So this series, this special lecture that he's given on setting goals, long-term goals, short-term goals, and how the brain relates to that, is one of the ways you can prepare yourself for Ramadan, because Ramadan is all about setting goals, to get through each day. So with that said, guys, yes, brother Amir, this is what you were waiting for? And you got your notebook. He said he has his notebooks. Good job. Well, okay, with no further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Dr. McBride. And inshallah, let's all sit back and enjoy. Go ahead. You can go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I got to tell you, this is one of my favorite topics. Every time I prep for it, every time I give this talk, I get excited, because as I talk, I also remind you, I teach you, and I remind myself to get it right. So many of us have goals that we want, that we dream about, but we never get to. And with the neuroscience that I have now, it becomes easy. And then with one of my mentors, Dr. Robert Malillo, his program, this is a lot of his stuff right here. But without further ado, let me greet everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Today, we are going to find out how to set and achieve our goals. Set and achieve. I know I've struggled with achieving goals in the past. I've seen my patients struggle to achieve health goals. I know it can be hard, but it doesn't have to be. Today, we're going to learn how to achieve our goals using both neuroscience and our religion to help us set the goals and to achieve them. Not just, I want to lose 50 pounds by February. Doesn't make sense, right? It's how to set the goal and how to achieve it. We're going to come up with a plan. And when we're done today, at the end, brother, I'm glad you've got your notebooks. At the end, we are going to we're going to set a goal. We're going to create a plan to achieve that goal. And that will be your example for every other goal you want to set and achieve this year, this week, this month, for your entire life. What we're going to do is we're going to combine both our religion and neuroscience. The Quranic guidance, of course, is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as delivered through the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the neuroscience is from a variety of sources, with the majority of it coming from Dr. Robert Malillo and the material I've learned from him. And what he does with he does this every year with his family, his staff, and for himself. And of course, like I said, the thousands of us that he has mentored and taught over the years. As Muslims, we should always think, excuse me, that didn't work. There, and as Muslims, when we think about the future, we've got two approaches. We've got al-Qadr, and that's the preordainment. Then we also have free will. Some people think of this as a conflict, but it really isn't. Al-Qadr is our Islamic belief that Allah knows everything. He knows everything in the past. He knows everything in the future. He knows everything that we're doing right this minute. He knows the things we're thinking about and not doing. He knows everything. Now, some people mistakenly think that this means everything is preordained. And they're right. But because we're only human beings, this is where the free will part comes in. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know. We have to make, we're told over and over in the Quran to make our own decisions, to decide, to choose. We'll be rewarded. If we make a decision and it's a good one, we'll be rewarded 10 times up to 700 and more, as much as Allah wants. If we make a decision to do a bad deed, it's counted as one bad deed. But it's our decisions, because we don't know what the future brings. One of the best ways that I think of, or to describe free will, is the hadith by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he tells us, tie up your camel first, then put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're supposed to do everything in our power to use the tools that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. Then we trust in Allah to give us the best outcome. Yes, al-Qadr, because Allah knows everything. Everything is preordained. So then tie up your camel, do everything in your power to achieve the goals you have set, and then rely on Allah to give you what He knows you need. Now, really cool. Our religion, Islam gives us a goal-setting outline. Think about what we want to do, the big picture of our lives as Muslims. And I'll give you this outline, and then if you're a non-Muslim, you can figure out how to apply it. Even though I use Arabic words and ideas, you can still apply all of this from a secular or Christian or whatever religion you follow. Okay, one of the big goals in my life is always, every year, is faith is the first one. That underlies everything else how I set all my goals and what I try to achieve. But imagine the lifetime goal for all of us, everyone except an atheist, is to make it to heaven. We want to get to Jannah. So what we're going to do is, literally, that is your big picture vision. That's your right brain idea, right? As we talk about right and left hemispheres, that's your right brain idea. Now, that's the lifetime goal. That is the big picture. That's all the way out there. I want to make heaven. Now, what are some of the steps, or as we move it over, what's the purpose? And when you set your goals, you can make them very selfish. You want a brand new watch, you want a brand new jewelry, or you can make them saving the world, role modeling for your kids, saving your family, all of that. And we'll talk more about that. But imagine, for a very selfish reason, I want to be in heaven. The other side is where we don't want to be. So now look at, for me, Islam, look what Islam has done for us. We have this lifetime picture. It's talked about over and over in the Quran about achieving heaven and what's in heaven with the gold, the castles, the being around your loved ones. I'm just a picture. If you read the Quran and you just did just what's in heaven awaiting you, that's all we need. So imagine you want to achieve heaven. Now, what are some of the steps, the action steps, and you've got your purpose. It could be very selfish in this case. I want to be in heaven. And then if I'm role modeling that, I want to be there with my family and my loved ones and everyone that came before me. So there we are, selfish and family-wide. Now, what are some of the things that Islam tells us we should do on a regular basis? Well, to achieve heaven, one of the most important things, if you can afford it, is to make Hajj once in your lifetime. Well, first we have to make our declaration of faith. You want to acknowledge that there is no God but God. La ilaha illallah, and Muhammad are Rasulullah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, along with all the previous messengers that came before him and prophesied him. So we got our Shahada. Now we can make our Hajj. If you can make it once in your lifetime, that's a long-term goal, and then you take action steps to achieve that. What can you do on a regular yearly basis? Every year, you pay your zakat. And then it's also recommended that you make regular payments of charity also, sadaqah. You can make monthly payments, weekly payments. You can donate on a daily basis. whatever you want to do. So we've got a lifetime, a yearly, and what did the sister remind us that's coming up? Ramadan every year. You want to successfully complete that with the fasting and the good deeds. And if you're not healthy enough to fast, there are ways that you can achieve the blessings also. So we've got Ramadan, and then very important, along with Ramadan, we have fasting on a regular basis, just like donating on a regular basis. It's recommended that we fast 3 times a month, preferably Mondays and Thursdays, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us. And again, like I said, at least 3 times a month. And right behind that is what? Now we have our daily, weekly, we have our 5 prayers every day, minimum. So now we've got a Shahada, we've got Hajj, we've got Ramadan, we've got Zakat, we've got regular voluntary fasting, regular voluntary charity. We've got our 5 daily prayers. We've got our daily action steps to help us achieve our making heaven goal. We've got our weekly, monthly, yearly donations. We've got our fasting. We've got Hajj if we can. And the most important thing is, of course, your belief, your Shahada, that there is no God but Allah. So keep that in the back of your mind while I talk, because that's what we want to do. We're going to set a lifetime, or in today's case, I talk about short-term goals. We'll talk at the end. We'll cover a 3-month to year goal, and then we'll talk about everything we need to do that. But that's how it ties into my religion for me. Now, with the religion in mind, next, let's talk about the science of goal setting. In neuroscience, goal setting is called self-regulation. There are certain brain networks that do this, including the frontal lobe, the prefrontal cortex. As we talked about, we've explained all those early, and we'll review them very briefly today. We also are going to talk about the basal ganglia. Now, the basal ganglia is where habits live. Once we establish a habit, it lives in the middle of your brain, in the basal ganglia, right there by all of your memory centers, but it's right what we call the mid-temporal lobe in here. This is hugely important because it's so closely tied to everything around it. This can be emotional habits, this can be movement habits, this can be the way you think, habitual thinking, and the way my kids know how I'm going to respond to almost everything, and I know what pushes their buttons also. Those are emotional responses, right? Those are habits, and they're all in your basal ganglia. And in the case of goal achieving, it's especially the left side, which is going to initiate the steps to achieve that goal. But we don't forget the right side of basal ganglia in the right hemisphere. That's going to inhibit all the competing habitual thoughts or anything that's going to distract us from achieving that goal we've set. And in earlier lectures, we've already talked about it. Think about what takes place here in the basal ganglia if it gets overstimulated. You've got OCD, you've got tics, you've got addictive behavior, you've got mania. We've talked about all of that before. Now, it's really important, like I said, when we talk about goal setting, this is defined as self-regulation. And self-regulation is defined as the ability to create and maintain alignment with distant or abstract goals, especially when the immediate motivations and desires compete with those goals. That's where you want to do this. You want to do that. For example, right now, you may be wanting to sit down to have dinner. It's after 6 o'clock, my time here. This may be your dinner time. And on Thursdays, you decided your goal was to learn how to set and achieve goals. So the competing goal is to pay attention to that food, but you're actually concentrating and taking notes and focusing on this lecture, okay? That's self-regulation. That's also described as, that's where we get our willpower from, our self-regulation. We're able to align our actions, our motivations with a long-term goal, or something in the distance, not right here. All of this takes place in our brains, especially in the areas of the prefrontal and frontal cortices. This is where we think, this is where we plan. This area, as we talked about before, is so important that it's mentioned at least 3 different times that I can think off the top of my head in the Quran, and we actually use that the one of my favorite verses as part of a lecture earlier. And I'm going to reference it today. What we have, for all of those that don't know, Surah Al-Alaq. It's chapter 96. This is verse number 13, 14, 15, and 16. I'm going to read them to you now. This is how important this area is and how important it is not to let this get corrupted and keep that right and left hemispheric balance. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Tell me if he, the disbeliever, Abu Jahl, denies and turns away. Knows he not that Allah does see? Nay, if he ceases not, we will catch him by the forelock, a lying, sinning forelock. And in a later verse, we'll quote, we're talking about the hellfire and the stern angels that are around it. That's how important this frontal and prefrontal cortex is. Now, let's review more science, because for most of us, the religion is sound. I'm solid in that. So I'd like to remind you of what takes place in the frontal and prefrontal cortex. There are what we call 5 subcortical areas. And again, this is the neuroscience behind goal setting, and you'll see why I consider these so important. One area, the motor and supplemental motor areas. This is where we plan all of our movements and plan all of our actions. Anything we do in life, we do some kind of motor planning and motor action. Even smiling. If we're talking is one of the most complicated motor actions you can do. Tying your lips to your mouth, to your breathing, to your tongue. It's just an awesome ability. Think about all that's taking place in your brain while you bring words into it. Let's see, even when we think, when we're looking, even with our eyes closed, and I'll probably mention this later, it's really cool. Even if you close your eyes right now and I say, think about a goal, think about anything, immediately you start visualizing, even with your eyes closed, you've got eye movement, motor function there looking at that goal. I know some people, less than 10% of the population, I think it's 5 or 6, have no inner dialogue, and they may not be able to picture stuff. But for most of us, even with our eyes closed, we have motor planning and we have motor movement. Number 2, the anterior cingulate cortex. This is a big thing right now in a lot of this comes up in my Instagram all the time because I follow science stuff. And they're always talking about the anterior cingulate cortex. And they're right about it, though. This area is where our motivation lives. This area, our left side initiates, again, and our right side actually tries to inhibit all the distracting, the unnecessary actions, the unnecessary thoughts. But it's that anterior cingulate cortex that actually, the left side, that initiates and will give us the motivation and move us to take action on what we need to do. Then we have the frontal and supplemental eye field. That's hugely important because, like I said, this is the area where we control our eye movement. This is what we are focusing on. This is what we're looking at. This is what we're thinking about. When they do that profiling thing, whenever they talk about these things come up all the time in a feed, and they'll say, oh, if the person's looking to the right, it means this. If they're looking to the left, it means that. All these subtle indicators. Your eyes, like they say, your eyes are the windows to your soul. And literally the expression and the control of your eye movement is here in your brain. And like I said, you're going to look at and focus on what's important. And the more you pay attention to something, the more important your brain thinks it is. That's why we're told how many times over and over and over again, how many hadith, lower your gaze, don't look around, don't even associate, but don't look around, always lower your gaze. Keep your eyes focused on what's right in front of you. Along with the frontal eye field, you also have the orbital frontal cortex. Oh, along with the frontal eye field, the more you visualize something, the more you draw your focus there. And like I said, I mentioned it as a side note, but it's really, really important. The more you look at something, the more you, even with your eyes closed, the more you visualize it, the more important it comes to your brain. And that's why a lot of lifestyle coaches will encourage you to put stickers everywhere. Put that goal on the refrigerator, put it on the mirror, put it on. Find a way to, and I recommend when we set the goal tonight and throughout the year, literally review your goal list and the action steps you need to take and the reason why. Review your goals, your purpose, and your action every day. Keep it in the forefront of your mind because there's enough distractions out there in the world, whether it's the TV, whether it's your boss, whether it's your family, whether it's your own thoughts. You want to remind yourself of what's important. Look at it, visualize it, and make it important. Believe it, earn it, own it in your head. Then, of course, we have the orbital frontal cortex. This is where our social and emotional behavior comes from. This is really, really closely tied to the anterior cingulate cortex. And remember, and this is, they really work closely together on your executive thinking, and that's another area also. But the thought, the planning, and since it's so closely tied to right behind it, your anterior cingulate cortex, this really controls your emotional behavior and your physical behavior. This is your socialization. If you've got a strong orbital frontal cortex, if you've got a strong prefrontal cortex, you act appropriately in society. And we can all see all over the TVs today. How many people on TV on a regular basis are just socially out of control? They think everything they do and their behavior is appropriate. And that's a problem right here with your orbital frontal cortex. It's not reining you in, and that left side, that initiation is out of control, and there's no right-sided inhibition. There's a problem right here in that left and right orbital frontal cortex. Too much left orbital frontal cortex, and you've got mania. Too little on the right, too little, too little on the right is mania. Then too much on the right, not enough left. Remember, we want that balance. Too much right, too much inhibition, not enough initiation, and we have depression. And then the fifth area of the 5 subcortical regions is the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. This is where the orbital frontal cortex helps, more socialization. The dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, this is where we think. This is where our cognitive abilities live, is in this area. Our executive functions, including planning and goal setting. Now, next I want to talk about what I call Melillo, Dr. Robert Melillo. This is something I learned from him. I call this the Melillo Big Three, or Dr. Melillo's 3 Bs. And in the office, we can actually test for these and help you improve your weaknesses. The first B is bias, or your biases. This is how you were raised. How many people in our audience, they are Catholics, they are Muslims, they might be, maybe you're an atheist. How much of that Christianity, Islam, Hindu, whatever else is out there, whatever is taking place, whatever your beliefs are, how much of that did you choose, or were you just taught and you accepted it from your parents? These are what we call your biases. What did your environment develop in you? Your attachment styles. What did people say to you? What did they say about you? What did you adopt, and how did you adapt? These are your biases. Number 2, hugely important, your brain itself, your neurological function. And we talked about this in other lectures. Do you have a hemispheric imbalance? What is your cognitive style? How do you think? Are you a right hemisphere? Excuse me. Are you a right hemisphere or are you a left hemisphere dominant personality? And third, and hugely important, is your body. Biases, brain, and body. When we talk about your body, we're talking about your physiology. Are you healthy or unhealthy? And how do you know? Really important, especially in today's society with all the fast foods or the packaged foods. We've got all these food colorings and additives, the different potato chip companies and candy companies put special chemicals in it to actually create addictive behavior. We've talked all about that before. Do you have inflammation? And this is hugely important, inflammation. And it's rampant throughout society. There is a great research article about sickness behavior and the influence of inflammation. Because if you have sickness behavior, think about what's going to take place there. What happens when you're sick? I know my female patients, in a very loving and supportive way, my female patients point this behavior out all the time. If their husbands are sick, literally, I'll find out, why didn't your husband come in today? They might come in as a couple on a regular basis. Oh, where's your husband today? Oh, he's sick. He's on the couch. He can't help with the sick kids because he's too sick. It's sick, not to make any excuses, but sickness behavior is a real thing. What happens is, and thank God for our strong sisters, right? They just kill it when we're not feeling well, don't you? So what takes place here is sickness behavior is a real thing, though. Excuse me, because what happens is our bodies release inflammatory chemicals. Takes a lot of energy to heal. So what they do is they tell our brains, these chemicals get released, and they tell our brains to ramp down our actions, ramp down our desires. We can't smell anything. We can't taste anything. We don't have any energy because all of that energy is being used to heal ourselves, fight off the pathogens, heal from an injury. That takes a lot of energy. So what happens is we develop this sickness behavior. And one of the ways our body can encourage that behavior, because we don't want to just lie around. That's not a safe thing to do. But one of the things is we release these inflammatory chemicals. There's a whole list of them. Interleukin, this number and that number, cytokines, if you want to look that kind of stuff up. These tell us to slow down, to stop, to remove ourselves from society. Just lay around. It's okay not to do anything. It's okay to not exercise. It's okay to just lay in bed. It's okay not to pay attention to everything that's going around you. We want you just to heal. And the key here is that the inflammatory response is not only in a response to diseases or injury. Many of you may know this, but this may come as a gigantic surprise for any brothers and sisters that are overweight or obese. Well, let's start with food sensitivities and food allergies. You may not know you have an allergy, but you can develop a sensitivity if you eat the same thing over and over again, especially junk food or just the processed foods. Food allergies more obvious because you get a response right away. Along with that is overweight and obesity. You've got to understand when you become overweight and or obese, right? Your fat cells actually release these same inflammatory chemicals. So now, not to give you an excuse, but understand that if you're overweight or obese, those fat cells are actually releasing chemicals that encourage you not to be successful at exercising, right? What did we just talk about? Remove yourself, don't do anything, save all that energy. Those inflammatory markers, that chemicals, that's what they do. The reason I'm telling you this is because now I want you to know there's a reason. It's a physical response to what's going on in your body. You're not broken. It's not something that you have to get used to. This whole thing about, oh, well, you come from big bone people. Oh, you were never athletic. Those are the biases that you were taught before. There's plenty of big bone people that are out there playing in the NBA, the NFL, soccer, whatever the case is, right? This UFC stuff that's so popular. People that run, people that walk, people that jog. You don't have to go to the gym and become a bodybuilder. Literally just a little bit every day, and that's the goal setting. But I want you to realize that there is a reason. And if there's a reason, if there's a why, then there's a how to overcome that. All right. So there's a reason for that. Those inflammatory markers in those inflammatory chemicals stimulate a sickness behavior. Now what we have to do is set achievable goals, make a plan, take action steps to change that. Like I said, I think I mentioned it last week. In the office, I'm always talking about we train it in and we train it out. Remember, especially with the Quran, when we look at Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 286, think about what we're told. 1,400 years ago, we were told how that we don't have any excuses, okay? Allah burdens not a person in his scope. Excuse me. Allah burdens not a person beyond his scope. He gets reward for that good which he has earned, and he is punished for that evil which he has earned. If it is really, really hard for you to achieve your goals, then there is something holding you back, and this may be in what I call Malil's 3 Bs, or Malil's big 3. Remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala burdens not a person beyond his scope. Now, we have to understand that our life is a reflection of our habits, as we talked about earlier, things that we develop, things that live on in our basal ganglia, the things that come out automatically. The reason you feel lazy is that you have bad or poor exercise habits. The reason that you can't lose weight is you have bad or poor eating habits. The reason you are angry or sad is you have bad or poor emotional habits. And the reason you can't keep a relationship is you have bad or poor social habits. And remember, all of these habits, the reason you have bad or negative thoughts and questions is you have bad or poor habitual thinking. Each one of these is related to a specific pathway in your brain, particularly in what? The frontal and prefrontal cortex. And then it lives in the basal ganglia. These networks are real, just like the inflammatory chemicals are real. Sickness behavior is real. These networks are real, and you can influence and change them. The secret, really the secret, the science to success is to have a clear, detailed, powerful vision, powerful and measurable plan. That is what we're going to do now. You're going to answer 3 questions. And for everyone that has something to write with, we're going to spend the next 20 or 30 minutes setting one goal. All right. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. And if you want to, you can write this down, but I'm going to repeat it in a few minutes. The first question is, what do you want? What is your vision? Like my example earlier, that's why I mentioned right at the beginning, I want it in there. You want to achieve Jannah. Now we went through all the different ways that you're going to, the different steps, the different action steps that you're going to take, right down to praying 5 times a day. You go from once in a lifetime, you go from your Shahada and once in a lifetime Hajj, all the way through to daily, weekly, yearly, monthly, weekly, daily action steps, right? What do you want? This is your vision, and make it a big one. Make it a huge one. But we'll talk more about it in a minute. The next is your purpose, or why do you want it? And the third is, what do you have to do to get it? This is your action plan. This is what I'm going to do every year for the year. This is what I'm going to do every month. This is what I'm going to do every week. And this is what I'm going to do every day, starting tonight before I go to bed. I'm going to look at the plan we created today, right now. I'm going to look at that plan. That way it's in my head. And when I get up tomorrow morning, at the time I set to get up and do it or to start, that's already in there. Okay. So we're going to have a plan today. And then you're going to start it tonight into tomorrow, right after you read the Quran, Surah Al-Kahf, inshallah. Now, I know, I know when I say, what do you want? It's a huge question. I know you could probably, if I said, what do you want? You'll probably tell me, well, I don't know, or I'm not sure, or whatever takes place. If I say, what don't you want? You'll run through a whole list, right? Because remember, your right brain is always on, your right brain is always looking and trying to be safe. You can probably list me a million things you don't want, and literally only one or two things that you really want. And I want you to reverse that thinking. That's why we're going to have daily, we got to have a plan. The secret to success is having a plan, a clear plan with detailed, powerful vision and measurable goals that we want to achieve. So what we're going to do is, what do you want? Why do you want it? And your purpose, what you have to do to get it. This is your action plan. Now, along with what do you want, we could say happiness in your relationship. I want to lose weight. Both of those are too general. What you want to do is, when we talk about losing weight, for example, or what I do, if I can give you an example, I have this is what we call chunking, is what I'm trying to describe. What you're going to do is, there are chunks in your life, rather than something happening every day. Pass the exam. Yes, I can believe it. And that's a good one. What I do, think about it. Okay, let's pass an exam. What you want to do for Tajweed, right, is think about it. You're going to pay attention to your instructor. You are going to learn the alphabet. You're going to learn how to pronounce the letters. You're going to learn to read, whether that letter is in the middle, the beginning, the middle, or the end, and if it changed shape, and how they flow together. What becomes a silent, what becomes a joining, the line above, the line below, the semicircle on top. You're going to learn all that. Now, the thing to remember is, as I said earlier, your exam is the big goal. Pretend it's at the end of the week. Well, is it better to cram all night Thursday? Or would it make more sense to do, because now it's not important until Thursday gets here because the exam's Friday. So what you're going to do is set a goal of, I'm going to study this much, and there's a time to it. I'm going to study this much on Monday. I'm going to study this much on Tuesday. I'm going to study this on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for this amount of time, so that by the time I get to Friday, that exam is literally really important all week long, because I paid attention to the material. I studied the material. I looked at it every day. I used my supplemental and my frontal eye fields. It's what I focused on. My brain knows it's important, and it's going to give it priority in my thinking and my actions. And there you've got a time frame, say a week, for example, and you've got daily goals and action steps that you're going to take with time allotted to them. You're going to plan 30 minutes. You're going to plan for an hour. You can fit it in. When I'm at the office, there are certain things I do. I plan during lunch. If I have free time during lunch and I don't have a lot of notes left over to do, then I'm literally reading, writing, or studying something, and pertaining to these lectures, to the next 2 books that I'm writing right now, alhamdulillah. But that's what we're going to do. Now, when we talk about chunking, though, the big picture thing, I have 4 categories that I think everything in my life, all of my goals, my purpose, all my vision, everything falls under. Okay, my goals. It's faith, that underlies everything. Then my family, then my fitness, so that I can earn my finances. I'm a doctor, and what I do is a lot of what I do as a chiropractor and a functional neurologist is, I'm a big fan of motor activity. A lot of brain function stems from motor activity. Like I said, even closing your eyes and envisioning something, there's motor activity going on. So it's literally faith, family, fitness, and finances. And then faith, then we break it out. Family, more time with the kids, phone calls, reaching out, FaceTime, texting on a daily basis. Then we go fitness. Where am I going to plan my workouts? How am I going to get my exercise in? I have time this day for an hour plus. This day I only have 30 minutes. Fitness also includes, for me, planning it out, what I eat and don't eat, and including fasting. A lot of times I'll just have a little really healthy, I've confirmed it, really healthy power bar or a healthy bar from a company I use. And then finances, what I do, how I generate my income. If I want to make more money, then I have to ask for a raise, or I put in more time. These kind of things increase my worth within the office. But that's chunky, and we'll do that, inshallah. We'll do that next week. What we're going to do now is, okay, yeah. So what we're going to do now, what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about the goal setting and achieving in all the areas so that we can live happy, well-rounded lives. Hugely important. The motivation a lot of times for me is role modeling this for my children and our families, friends, and actually as Muslims, all of humanity. As Allah told us in the Quran, in Surah At-Tahrim, chapter 66, verse 6, O you who believe, ward off or protect from yourselves and your families a fire whose fuel is men and stones, over which are appointed angels, stern and severe, who disobey not the commands they receive from Allah, but do that which they are commanded. And then Surah Al-Imran 3:104, role modeling for your family, now role modeling for the world. Let there arise out of you a group of people inviting all that is good and joining al-Maruf, or all that Allah orders us to do, and forbidding al-Munkar, all that Allah has forbidden us to do. And it is they who are successful. Now, during the next few steps, I'll give you the time for each step, so do not feel rushed. After we finish tonight, you should review what we've done and flesh it out even more. The goal should be a short-term, 3 months to a year, achievable goal. Remember, the science to success, like I said earlier, is to have a clear, detailed, powerful, and measurable plan. That is what we are going to do now. Now, ready? With all of that, this should be, and it should be a gigantic vision. It should be a gigantic plan. Don't let, there's pretend, if I said, what would you want, or how achievable is your goal? How much effort would you put in? What would you want to do if you knew you could not fail? This is not a pass or fail. There is no fail. So I want you to spend the next, when I say start, and I'll get my phone ready. When I say start, I want you to spend the next minute writing down your goal, your vision. This could be, for example, Quranic memorization, a body weight goal, an amount of money goal at the end of the year, something, attending more of your children's activities, a school goal, anything you really want, working on your relationship. I'd recommend today, though, make it like individual, make it customized for you, because what you'll do is I'll recommend during the week before next week, plan a few family goals or couple goals that you and your spouse, or if, like in my case, you're single, plan a couple of other goals, bigger goals, and think about those, flesh them out, and then we'll go over more next week along this same topic. But what I want you to do is right now, write down in 1 minute, starting now. This is your vision. This is your goal. Write it down. and write it all down. Paint the picture of your vision, include everything you are feeling about it, and do it now, 1 minute. Again, don't let anything hold you back. Don't listen to me. Just keep writing. Don't organize it. Don't try to structure it. This is the beginning. This is your vision. This is what you want to have done in the next 3 months, the next 6 months, the next year. Now, before you put your pens down, write down how it feels, what you see, you've achieved it. How do you feel about the success? And stop. Now, the next one is just as important. All three of them are important. Next, write down your purpose, your why for achieving this goal. This is your motivation. If you want to lose 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 50 pounds this year, be more active with your kids. I want to have more money at the end of the year so that I can take my family on Hajj next year. This is your save the family, save the world purpose, and include, again, how it feels to achieve it. Get it in there, make it important. Now start writing now. The next minute is your purpose, your reason why. You're writing right now. Why do I want to do this? Oh my God, I want to save the world. I want to save my children. I wanna. This is the purpose. This is your world-saving, family-saving, life-changing purpose. Remember, write down how you feel as you're doing it, after you've achieved it. This is, I feel healthier. I feel more comfortable. My children are happier. This is the reason you want to achieve the goal that you just set. And stop. Now, you've just written your goal, you've just written your purpose. Now you're going to write down your action steps that you need to start now. Tonight, look it over when we're done. Tomorrow, start doing it. And if there's something you can do tonight, do that tonight to achieve this one goal. If it's an easy one to think about, again, is whoever about the Tajweed exam. Review something for 5, 10, 15 minutes tonight before you go to sleep. Let it set in. Sleep on it. Your brain starts to focus and bring in everything that's important. Get rid of the nonsense that you learned during the day or that you're exposed to during the day. You can start tonight or review what you've written tonight. Then tomorrow, what are you going to do? Pretend you want to learn to be more active. So maybe one of the things you're going to do right after we're done is go to bed early. Or I'm going to do something every morning before my kids wake up. That's when I've got time to myself. It's one of the big complaints. I don't have enough time. I've got children. I've got this. I've got that. Get up 30 minutes earlier, which means tonight, go to bed 30 minutes earlier. Tonight, you may not be able to go to sleep, but if you set that alarm clock and you get up 30 minutes earlier before Salah, then you'll start to develop that habit. And tomorrow night, you'll be tired and you'll go to sleep the way you want to, a little bit earlier. That's how I altered mine. I shifted from a nighttime thing and I couldn't count on my energy levels. But I can count on going to bed early and waking up with enough energy. And I started by setting my alarm clock, which then influenced the time I went to bed. So what you're going to do now is you're going to write down the action steps and the time frame that you want to do it in. This is what you need to do today so that 3 to 6 months, 3, 6, 12 months from now, you will achieve your vision. Okay. Your game plan is going to be right there in front of you. So write down the action steps that you need to take. Again, maybe it's getting up early. I'm going to give you 1 minute to write down everything you think you need to do, and then we'll flesh it out. You can flesh it out during the week. You can add, you can delete action steps, but we'll go over this again next week. These are the action steps. These are what you need to do to achieve this plan. Ready? Start. Every little thing you can think of, write it down. Everything you can do to help yourself achieve this. And stop.
I must be psychotic. I mean, seriously, I stopped. I looked at what I wrote. Something's wrong with me. I mean, seriously, I am not normal.
Sister, I'm hoping you are.
I'm gonna tell you what I wrote. I'm serious. This is weird. This is crazy. Just so you guys can get, I mean, I'm gonna show. I like this is why I love your lectures, and I see now why you're so popular. You get more views than anybody else. The first part, when you asked to write down things you would change, I put number 1, to remove all love from my heart from anyone and anything except the law and the prophet and companions. Number 2, to never, ever falter in my faith. Number 3, to apologize to anyone I ever hurt. Number 4, to be able to let go of any and all disappointments in life. This is morbid. And then to be closer to Allah. Now that's morbid. Then I wrote down here, when you said the second thing, the way to go about it. I mean, why?
Yeah.
I put down here, now this is not, I have a degree. I got a couple of degrees like everybody else. We're all educated. I'm a I got psychology degrees and stuff too. Easiest degree in the world. I got down here to my purpose, to never deviate away, to never forget my purpose in life, which is to worship Allah, to never care about what others do, to remove all concern. I mean, this is morbid. To remove all concern from anyone, including family, from my life, to never feel alone and sad, to never cry again, to never have to hurt, to never ever experience pain. Now, this is a person that's psychotic.
Suppose.
I mean, really, and you said just write from your mind.
Right.
I'm a right brain person. I can do that.
I gotta tell you, there's no doubt about it. You lost your right brain right there. That is all. Everything we've talked about having an overactive. But it's logical because you, like we said, there was some left brain there because you literally listed it out. You chose the descriptive words. You did your left brain. You followed.
I don't want to ever hurt, never experience pain. How to go about it? Distance myself from people completely. Only surround myself with animals. I put that here. Animals, not people.
I gotta tell you.
I mean, come on. You learn about yourself.
I don't know anything. I don't know any hadith that kind of project you in the direction you just wrote down.
I did what you just did without thinking.
No, I'm cool with that. This isn't even a criticism because this is what you're supposed to do. If this is important to you, this one single This is really in depth. You dove in head first, sister.
To never experience loneliness. That's what I have there. To never be and feel alone. To never feel unappreciated. To never feel hurt and cry and be sad. I mean, it's all emotional. I'm an emotional.
Very, very emotional.
Evidently, this is what I'm really experiencing.
Absolutely. So think about what takes place there. Let me use that and add to it. Think about if it's here, something really important to you, there's an emotional goal, right? I mean, that's important to you. Now, imagine what I want you to do next. What action, tell me what action step, one action step, your keystone action step for tonight and tomorrow. What's the first action you should do to avoid, if I can generalize, avoid any pain brought into your life by other people?
I put down here, number one is detach.
Okay.
That's what I wrote. And that's when I stopped. I said, I'm crazy. I wrote detach from family completely. That includes mother, that includes brothers, that includes children, grandchildren, and it includes website. I said in website too.
Yeah. Suppose I suggested, because I don't have a psychology degree, but suppose what we did was rather than detaching, because being a right brain person, your strong suit is attaching. It's nearly impossible to go against yourself. You know what I mean? That's the battle we have inside ourselves, is we don't realize if I shift the focus from disappointing family and friends, rather than detach from them physically and all that stuff, suppose you started in your head making it less self and more about them, and let them, don't attach your emotions to it. Let them be them, because you can't do anything. It's all the cutter of a lie in this case. I mean, it's literally the will of Allah. And what it is your strength is going to be right brain then. Your strength is attaching. Your strength is socially appropriate behavior. Your desire for all of that is there. And then you're constantly disappointed in everything around you because it's outside of your control.
Right.
So then if it's outside of your control, then it shouldn't be inside your emotions. Like we talked about, poor habitual emotional behavior. And what you're doing, a poor behavior would be always internalizing external stuff.
Right.
I always tell people, don't let your outsides control your insides.
Right.
It's easier for me. I mean, I was a firefighter. I was a school teacher. I'm trained that way. And it fits my personality. But you are probably more right brain than I am.
I am.
And it's harder for you. So what you have to do is start again. And what would I do to strengthen your left brain if I went into the doctor mode? I'd have you start wearing little things on your wrist, supporting your beliefs. I'd have you wear, if you're going to wear a ring or any jewelry, it should be on your right side to stimulate your left side. If you have TENS units at home that you talked about, I put it on my right leg. I put it on my right back. Big muscle groups, stimulating the left side, because you don't want to dampen your strength. What you want to do is ramp up any weakness you may have, and you are more emotional than you are logical, linear.
I am. That's me. I'm very, and people don't know that about me. They say that I'm angry, like Jamali. Jamali thinks I'm angry. I'm not an angry person. When I say I'm passionate, that means emotional. I am very emotional.
Rahman, what do you think about that? What do you think?
I think the sister is, I think what we do is, when you talk about the right brain, it's
hold on. Answer this Layla first before the question. Answer. She's get angry or emotional. What exactly?
Emotional.
Yes. Let me say. Yeah, I'm going to answer that. This is how I would answer it.
Okay.
What you have is, I mentioned left brain anger because you're frustrated because you didn't get what you wanted. That's not your problem. That's not your anger. What your anger is I am so emotionally involved.
There you go.
I've got two choices. I'm either going to cry and I'm not going to let you see me cry, or I'm going to fight about it and it comes out that way. It's literally, picture a cat and most wild animals. You run up on a cat, that cat's running, claws and all, teeth and all, the cat runs. Fear, self-preservation, forget the word fear, self-preservation, emotionally involved.
Right.
If you trap that cat in a room, it's going to fight till it dies.
Exactly.
Because of its emotional involvement. And in this case, for the cat, it would be fear. There's a book by centuries ago, Sun Tzu, the Chinese. If you ever read about it, heard about it, it's called The Art of War.
Yes, I have.
One of the quotes in there is, always give your enemy a way out.
A way out. Yes,
because if you don't give them a way out, you will lose more men and women, because Muslims, all of us fought back in the day when we were preserving Medina and Islam and Mecca and everything. When we were protecting ourselves, the women were out there, the men were out there, kids were trying to, and they were held back. I mean, the cat will fight till it dies.
That's right.
It will fight till it dies. And you will lose more people. Even when you win, the battle may not be worth it, because you did not give them a way out. Your case, right brain people, the left brain is usually the logical, the way out.
Right.
That's the way out. This side is the emotional side. It doesn't think linear. It doesn't think logically. It's fight or flight when it's under stress.
Exactly.
If you can't flight, if you got to fight.
To fight. Exactly.
And that's where your anger, I think, I'm not a psychiatrist. No one else take any of what I said, but
but you're hitting it. You're hitting
that right brain is it's fight or flight, or it feels safe. You know what I'm saying? So if you're not feeling safe, you're going to run from it or kill it.
Right.
And you respond again. Let's take it back. Not good or bad childhood, but how are you trained?
That's right.
How were you trained by your environment? How were you trained by everything? And
I was trained that way. I'm from the 60s, the Black nationalist movement. I was with my parents were with Malcolm X.
That's what I'm talking about.
Fight or flight to the graveyard.
You have trained based on your right brain, and your emotional side. That's the answer.
My mother always told me when I was a kid, if they come after you, if you can run. If you can't, you don't let nobody rape you. You die fighting. That's just the way I am. I'm that person. You're right. You hit it.
Okay.
And I realized that too when I wrote all this down. I said, Lord, Layla, not Sheba. I'm one and unique. That's why I'm saying ain't nobody else like Layla. Layla's a rare woman.
Very. MashaAllah.
Daya, especially to be a Daya.
Oh.
Takbir.
Allahu Akbar. Do we have any other questions? Anything else?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Okay, so if you have ADHD or you think you have ADHD, I mean, because you cannot cope with those goals. I have like a goal to pass my master thesis, and I do some work, but I like put time frames, but I don't follow them. I could study for 1 hour instead of 5 hours. I cannot do it.
Right.
So how do you cope with that? Because without medication, because I didn't. I'm in the finishing stage of my teaching degree, so it's becoming too much for me right now, and I haven't.
Let me ask a question. When you talk about you've set a 5-hour goal of studying, is that for right now? I'm going to study from 7 to 12 and then go to bed.
Yeah.
All at one time.
All at one time, yeah.
Okay.
5 hours from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. Something like that.
Okay. So think about what takes place there. Do you then with that? You've got to remember there are two things going on. One, if there's a hemispheric problem, if you're working on a thesis, you've accomplished quite a bit already. So let's start right there. I mean, you've accomplished a lot. You're finishing up a teaching degree, which means you've put in a lot of time into it already.
Mm,
What you
yeah.
have to do. So that's the number one. That's the first thing you should acknowledge is what did I do already that helped me to achieve what I've achieved so far. Now, if it's a right brain strength and a left brain weakness, you are also going to be very easily distracted, and you might start studying something, but then that something reminds you of something else, and then you start chasing after that something else, and that something else reminds you, and you're not able to keep what we call a focused attention. You're hyper attentive to everything, and you lack the ability to focus down. Now, if you can study for an hour, I got to tell you, that's amazing. That's a great time frame. I would, rather than doing a 5-hour sitting, I'd figure out how I can get that hour of intense studying focus and spread it out every day, and add more hours. I don't mean 1 hour a day. Like what I do, I get up and I'm after I make salah, I'm on the computer, I'm writing or preparing a lecture or writing in the book, or I'm in the garage working out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I've slept, so I'm more alert, I'm more awake. You know more than I do about how many hadith and how many verses are in the Quran that recommend staying awake after salah, or getting up and praying early, staying awake and doing something, and then making fajr, right? That's after your rest, you're going to be more alert and you'll have more energy. Maybe you do 3 hours in the evening, let's do 3, and 2 hours in the morning, and you actually go to bed earlier. Go to bed at 10 and add that wake up time earlier in the day when you've got more energy. Does that make sense? That way, you've got an action step that you could start tonight or tomorrow. Like tonight, you might write down, okay, tomorrow I planned on 4 hours. So you can try to get 2 of them in the morning just before, just after Fajr. And then I only have to focus. Now I've only got 2 hours for the whole rest of the day. And if I get any extra, it's a plus, and it's even more of a success. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because that's where you've got, you've got your vision, you've got your goal, you've got your purpose. You want to get this degree, you want to save the world, you want to be a phenomenal, the best teacher you can be, inshallah. Then what's your action steps? I can't make 5 hours in a row. So I'm going to do 2 in the morning. I'm going to do some in the afternoon. I'm going to do some at night. I have almost completely given up on doing things after work. I see a lot of people, and I get fatigued. So I come home, I have dinner. I'm always driving home thinking I'm going to do it, and I don't. So that's why I recommend I go to bed earlier now. When the sister first talked about me teaching a class, we talked about starting at 9 o'clock. And I was like, there's no way I could do 9 o'clock. I wouldn't have the energy. I wouldn't have. So I literally go to bed a little earlier so that I can get up earlier, inshallah, and do work undisturbed, no one else work. No, it's inshallah, try that as one of your action steps. And like I said, go to bed early tonight. Even if you don't fall asleep, set the alarm for, say, 30 minutes or an hour, whatever you want to do. Trade the time. Tomorrow night you'll be fatigued. The next night you'll be fatigued, right? And you'll fall asleep earlier and earlier if you keep getting up. Literally, I get up at darn near the same time every day, unless something really crazy happened the night before.
Yeah, I'll try to do that.
Inshallah.
We have a question from Brother Amir. He said, when you began, you were speaking about lowering. He's typing. His typing is bad.
Huh?
Lowering the gaze. He said, this is a problem I struggle with. I'm always trying to lower my gaze, but the bad things are around. He said, which side of the brain does that impact that I can't keep my gaze from looking at what it should not look at? And how can I change that? Because I don't want to be mad with Allah, or I guess he means Allah to be mad with him.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. One of the things you can do, like I said, your eyes are a clear demonstration of, or they demonstrate in a lot of cases, what you're focusing on. I'm not sure, again, I'm a big fan of hemisphericity, and we go, I really start there, the big picture, the hemisphericity. I've got to tell you, if you want to train, one of the things you can do, inshallah, if you want to train your intention and your vision, I'm going to recommend, I keep a bag with me, and I have my books in there. Anything I'm working on, anything I'm reading, it's if I left and pulled it over and came back, I could show you the books that I have. And there's religious stuff in there that helps me focus. Like when I was putting the Quranic quotes in here, I had to review the Quran a lot. So I have that stuff with me. What you got to do is train it in that you could keep the English version of stuff. Read the Quran. If you are really that worried about Allah, as you should be, as we should be, as I am. When I talk about lowering your gaze, it's about your intentionality. It's about the things that are in the forefront of your thoughts. The shaitan has these women out there in society, our non-Muslim people around us. This whole women's lib movement was a great idea for non-believers because they convinced people. We already knew women already had their rights in Islam. And one of the things, if I don't know the exact verse, but the Quran tells us that men are weak, and that's one of the reasons women should cover. Another reason is so that everybody knows who you are. The blessings that you get by covering. Well, imagine now these women can uncover. I remember, as silly as this is going to sound, we had one real channel when I was growing up. We had one real channel and a couple others. And I remember the first time they had a woman's bra commercial on. It was a famous actress, and she had one of those wire, really rough, hard, just old-fashioned bras. It was a white bra on the outside. Picture this. People went crazy because the bra was on the out, and I'm a little kid, right? The bra is on the outside of this woman's sweater to show support, how it supports. These people lost their minds for that. Now we've got all this express yourself and everything is okay stuff. That's how the shaitan, he's working. You got to understand, it's not just fearing Allah, which is hugely important. That's the great override. Understand that you are working against, fighting against something, someone that is guaranteed the hellfire, and he doesn't want to be alone. The shaitan is doing all this stuff targeting you. So now when you know what's taking place, you're going to train it out. You're worried about where your gaze is. Man, carry some Quran with you and read it. Train your mind to control your vision. And then the Quran, for me, is a constant reminder that Allah spoke directly to me. Allah is watching me all the time. It's not a superficial thing for me. Yes, I mess up. Yes, I can get upset. Yes, I can say something wrong, I guess. But the idea is you need to remind yourself every day. I can't express it enough because I know I do. I remind myself as much as I can every day that Allah is watching me. I am not out here alone. Allah is watching me. And if you can, again, it's so important to create an action step that you can do to remove the other habit that you already have. And this bad habit, not being able to lower your gaze, we're not perfect. Don't punish yourself if you did it once a day and you used to do it 10. Remind yourself of how successful you are and you get to the point where you lower it all the time. Does that make sense? I mean, it's real superficial because there's so much more. But what you want to do is get rid of the bad habit that's in your basal ganglia. You want to train it out with something else. Whoops, there's somebody over there. Boom, 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 boom. You know what I'm saying? Keep your favorite verse with you. Have it written down in English letters, but the Arabic transliteration, if that makes sense. So you memorize short surahs all the time. There's another one. Okay, I'm going to, this, that, and the other thing. There's another one I'm memorizing. Something that you can have an action step to replace and create a new habit, a good habit, to replace the bad habit. And it's pretty superficial what I'm saying.
That is wonderful.
Okay,
I like that.
Because you want to take an action. Your brain revolves around action. Even the brother's example is a great one. The action of looking creates brain activity, doesn't it? Yes. The shaitan wants it. He knows it's going to create lust. He knows it's going to corrupt us. He knows it's going to take us away. So now, rather than my action of seeing her, whoa, I look away, I look over here. Now I'm creating an action step. Whoop, look away. And I'm creating a new action step that gets me blessings from Allah. Because remember, the sin is written down once. The good deed is written down 10, 700, or whatever Allah wants to bless you with. The action step replaces the action step. And that's what creates
a good way of changing bad deeds into good
ones. Totally.
And he also typed here, he said, can you also explain how the frontal, the forelock, he's trying, when he talked about the forelock, when you taught us in the beginning how Shaitan has his grip on our forelock, what role does the forelock play in that problem of lowering the gaze?
Okay. It's not the Shaitan. I didn't say the Shaitan. Allah grasps us by the forelock, and we're told that, your soul will be ripped out. And it's the verse I quoted is the lying, sitting forelock of Abu Jahl, the uncle at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this big bad guy. The reason it's really cool, the reason that just resonates with me is this forelock, this frontal lobe and the prefrontal cortex. And remember, I mentioned the orbital frontal cortex. Remember, the orbital frontal cortex is tied in with your emotions and your motivation. Okay. So hugely important. Emotions are very motivating, right, sister? The emotions are very motivating. So literally, this is where, and again, your dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, this area is where we do all of our thinking, all of our planning. You have your motor centers right here. Right next to your motor centers is your sensory area. So you've got your sensory motor, and in here, your memory is right behind that, your hippocampus and your emotional centers are right there. Your basal ganglia we mentioned today, your forelock, your forehead, your frontal lobes, your prefrontal cortex. That's where you make that final decision to commit a sin or to hold back from a sin and commit a good deed. That's, excuse me, that's where that decision is made. That's why this forelock is so important. That forelock, that forehead. It can't be, some people say it's the hair, but in another reference to the forelock in the Quran, it's mentioned that Allah has every creature by its forelock. And there are a lot of creatures out there that don't have any hair, don't have any fur, right? Every creature, not all of them have hair and forelock hair. So my translation has always been the understanding, and hair doesn't lie. Hair doesn't commit a sin. Hair only does what we make it do, right? So when I talk about the forelock, it's that forehead, that frontal and prefrontal cortex. And that's why it's so important. And the Quran mentions it 3 different times. So that's how it influences. You decide to do it, or you override it and inhibit that action. And that's how that plays into your trying to avoid looking at someone else that's only partially covered. and then you're going to initiate an action. Okay, you're going to initiate the action by looking at something better. And I would recommend the easiest thing is to keep a short surah and memorize it.
But I believe the heart connected to the brain or controlling the brain and the whole body. Is that right?
You actually have. I'm glad you brought that up. The Quran references they're blind in their heart, or they don't see with their heart, right? Okay.
Exactly.
So it's really cool that with the science, imagine this stuff is just amazing to me. No, I'm not excited. Yes, I am. This stuff is crazy that the Quran, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's why you know it couldn't be a man-made book. They did not know that the heart actually has what's the word? Darn. Okay. Research shows that you have nerve cells in your heart like nerve cells in the brain. So those cells can actually make decisions by themselves, or they feed. It's really, you've literally, if I can say it like this, and any neuroscientists out there, you can correct it, type it in. Pretend I can say it like this. You got brain cells in your heart too. You absolutely have brain cells in your heart. And that's just, we were told that over 1400 years ago. Brain cells in your heart. So yes, Imam, you literally, it's there. It's really cool. Science.
As mentioned in the Quran, al-qalb and al-fu'ad, the heart and the core of the heart mentioned in the Quran. Plus hadith al-Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the first things Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, the heart, hadith al-Rasul, the heart is controlling the whole entire body in the hadith. And actually, I wanted the research when I was diving, you know, my specialty. When I dive, I always get shells, big shells, live. And I take it out to the beach, and I open it. I look at the heart. By the heart, the fish and the shells moving in the ocean. When I tell you, even when I try to scare you, what do you go? The heart move, not the brain. The heart did intend. That's actually, I'm talking the fish. My specialty is in geology and dive. The heart gives signal to the heart, to the brain, to act. Is that right?
Yes.
That I saw actually in my research in my PhD.
Yeah. It's the research supports literally the heart. Kind of, I don't know how to say it. You could find the article. How the heart actually makes decisions before the brain actually can tell it what to do, if I can say it that way.
Just because Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Idha salahat," if the body is good, everything good. If bad, everything bad. And that is the heart. If the heart is good, attached to Allah Azza wa Jal, I said the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I mean, I am in the right path. If the heart go with the desire, happy, this and this, away from Allah, from the salah and more, that means my heart is corrupted, regardless of a strong man or weak man. May Allah make our hearts strong, all of us. Ameen. Sorry to interrupt.
May I say this? We have learned about the fitra and the angel that's been assigned to our hearts.
Yes.
So that's why we have to really focus on that heart and listen to it, you know, because the goodness is there.
Yes.
So apparently, I just wanted to point that out too.
Yes,
We have another sister. She wants to know, can you give her an example as to how she could set short-term goals? She wants to spend less time on her cell phone.
Good idea.
So what would be an example that she could come up with to spend less time on her using her cell phone, doing TikTok and stuff?
Again, I'm a big fan. First and foremost, I would download the Quran. I have the Quran on my cell phone. One of the brothers sent it to me, and I have it on my cell phone. So I put it on my front the very front page. It's right here. I don't know. Am I supposed to show you the front of my phone? Every time I look at my phone, my college basketball player daughter, my son and I, they got a picture of us while she was playing. I'm a big sports fan with my kids. Like I said, I'm big into motor activity. But right next to that, you can see right over here to the side, you can see my Quran. So every time I look at the front of my phone, I see my Quran. So literally, I have listened while I drive, I have listened to the whole Quran repetitively. I've had taken the opportunity to listen to the whole Quran while I drive. So, sister, if you download a Quran to your phone and put it on your front page, you've got that every time. Then what you want to do, there's an action step. You have your phone. For me, I'm a big fan of, I would never sleep with my phone because I know all the bad side effects. So charge your phone in the other room. When you walk in, make it inconvenient while you're at home to go to your phone. Set it when you first get in, set it in the kitchen and then go into your room. Charge it in there. If you're worried about phone calls, then turn your ringer up. It's easy. Well, not easy. Don't get me wrong, but there are those steps you want to make using your phone, accessing the Quran again, in this case, accessing the Quran as easy as you can, or make accessing the phone as hard as you can. Don't keep that stuff near you. Okay. Inshallah, if we have any more questions, I bought a new instrument for my patients or to use. And I've got a seminar to learn how to use it better. Is it okay if I excuse myself now? It starts at 7:30.
Yeah, we're done. We're done.
Then inshallah.
Barakallah feek.
Wayakum. Wayakum.
Barakallah bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik.
Then what we'll do is, if you have any questions, we will continue this next week, inshallah, because I want to add a little bit more to the goal setting, goal achieving stuff. We'll continue with this idea, and we can pursue other questions and break down, in particular, chunking, okay, and how we can break down a big thing into smaller things. Inshallah, I'll see everyone next week then. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.